Hey there everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm that Scottish nerd that brings you Pokemon trading card game content, as well as gaming videos and the occasional movie review. If any of that interests you, be sure to subscribe down below, as it really helps out my channel, and it means that you won't miss any of my future uploads, as I do post a video multiple times a week. In today's video we have another Theme Deck Tuesday, and we're going to be taking a look at this Inteleon focused deck. The main Pokemon and start is the Inteleon. Here we have a 3-3-2 evolution line of the Inteleon, and this is a very disruption based deck which you don't see a lot of in the Theme Deck format, but this deck very much focuses on attacks like Silent Shot. Here for 1 energy we get to discard a random card from my opponent's hand, as well as doing 40 damage, which is a nice kind of rounded out attack to start doing some chip damage to our opponent. But if we attach an additional energy, we can use Hydro Snipe to 100 damage, and then we may put an energy from our opponent's active Pokemon back into their hand. This is great for slowing down our opponent, and it forces them to start attaching energy onto some of their bench Pokemon. So we have a 3-3-2 line of that. We don't have any kind of crazy attacks on the evolutions here. Sobble really doesn't have anything too impressive, just Pound for 10 and Water Gun for 20, as well as the Drizzle here having attacks for 30 and 40 respectively, so no interesting effects, but we do have a host of supporting Pokemon with some cool effects. So for our big basic type Pokemon in the deck, we have a Cramorant here. For 1 water energy, has Water Arrow, doing 20 damage to one of our opponent's Pokemon. This can be nice for finishing off something on the bench, or just setting up damage around my opponent's board, as well as moving into a Water Gun for 50 damage for just 2 energy. Is very efficient with the HP that Cramorant has. We also have a couple of copies of this Mantine, and this is great because it's Water Reserve attack for 1 energy. It allows us to search out 3 water energy from our deck and put them into our hand. This is good for just thinning energy out of the deck, as well as getting energy into our hand to start attaching onto our Pokemon so we can attack. Going back to our disruption attacks though, we do have this Kingler, which is a nice little attacker as it has Heavy Pincers. Again, 1 energy, 40 damage, but you're able to discard the top card of your opponent's deck. This could be good for getting rid of some of those resources that your opponent has, any kind of useful cards, and if we're able to hit things like draw supporters, that's really going to slow down our opponent. Then also going into a Claw Rend attack. For 3 energy we're able to do 90 damage, and if our opponent's active Pokemon already has damage on it, we do an additional 60, so that's 150 total damage. And that's where Cramorant sniping damage on my opponent's board is really important, because you can set up knockouts with this Claw Rend attack. And to round out our Pokemon, we also have a couple of evolution lines of Dreadnought here. Is a big Pokemon, it has 130 HP, and the main attack that you're going to be wanting to use here is most likely Vice Bite, because it does 60 damage and 30 more for each colourless in your opponent's attack cost. So say they have a retreat cost of 2, then you're going to be able to do 120 damage. This scales up as well if they have a retreat cost of 3 or 4, but for the most part you're going to average 120 damage with Dreadnought, and it can be a good attacker for that reason. Looking at the trainer lineup here, going over the supporters, we have 4 copies of Hop, as well as 3 copies of Professor's Research, so very solid lineup for the draw supporters, as well as having 2 copies of Pokekid here. Being able to search out any Pokemon and get those evolutions into play is going to be great for our consistency. And supporting that, we do have a couple of copies of Switch, which is standard. We have maxed out 4 copies of Great Ball, which is nice, as well as a tech copy, 1 of Energy Switch, as well as Pokegear. And we have this Ordinary Rod here, so that we can shuffle in Pokemon and Energy back into our deck and get multiple uses out of some of our Pokemon, especially those in Inteleon. So while the deck overall isn't a hugely damaging deck, it is trying to be quite disruptive, which we don't have a lot of in the theme deck meta. So if you enjoy this video at any point, be sure to give it a like down below, as it really helps me out. Let's get into a couple of games with this and try and get some wins against our opponents. Getting this first match started, we're up against a Zamazenta deck, it looks like. We are starting off with a whole bunch of energy in our hand, unfortunately, and not a whole lot of Pokemon, but we do have Hop to start us off at least, so we'll use Hop to draw some cards. Don't draw into a huge amount. We do get the Drizzle, so we could attach and retreat here, and I'd like to keep the switch in my hands just in case we want to make use of that. So I'll just attach, retreat, and pass it over to my opponent. Unfortunately, we're not progressing our board a whole lot since we're losing the energy, but being able to keep the Sobble in play so that we can evolve it up into Drizzle and eventually Inteleon is going to be great for our overall game plan in terms of getting our big attacker out. My opponent is attaching an additional energy, and they're going to swing into us for 30 damage. We do also get a Poke Kid, so that's going to help us find whatever Pokemon we want here. And I think we could actually just go and grab ourselves a Kingler if we have it in deck, and it looks like we have actually prized Kingler, unfortunately, so we're not going to be able to get that at all, and I'll just have to take the Inteleon instead and guarantee ourselves that for the following turn, as well as attaching to the Drizzle. We'll use Great Ball here in case we can thin out the deck, but we don't, unfortunately, so we'll just pass it back over to my opponent, and at least we have the Inteleon guaranteed for this following turn, so we can start hitting into our opponent and dealing 100 damage. My opponent's missing the knockout here, which is good. We could actually use Switch and start hitting them for 100. The only downside to this is that if we do that, my opponent's going to be able to use Power Rush for 120, but seeing as it's not a knockout, I think it's going to be more beneficial for us to start hitting with our Inteleon, keep our Krabby in play. So we'll hit them here, and they do have that minus 20 from their attack because they're reducing damage, but we're able to reset one of their energy, and it means that they're going to be forced, if they want to attack into us, attach that energy to the active, but they choose to put it onto the bench, so we're going to have free reign to knock out this Zamazenta here. My opponent is powering up Pokemon on their bench, so they're going to be looking to try and play around our Inteleon, but that's fine because we can start using our first attack, a Silent Shot here, to discard a card from my opponent's hand and start disrupting them in that way instead. We do also have a Pokemon Catcher we can make use of at some point, but I think we're just going to go with a Silent Shot here for now. That's going to give us the knockout as well as discarding a card from my opponent's hand. If we're able to pull off a Silent Shot enough, then hopefully we can get our opponent down to having a 0 or a 1 card hand, and that's really going to limit their options that they have. Luckily we're able to get a Kingler out of our prize cards, so definitely what we were looking for there is going to give us another attacker to work with, and hopefully we can draw into a supporter card so that we can start drawing some additional cards as well here. So my opponent got the Ferrothorn and had to flip coins, but unfortunately they got all tails, so I'm happy about that. We'll take those any day, and we can just keep attaching energy here, and certainly going for a Silent Shot could be nice, but I think getting the damage down as well as removing this energy is going to be more beneficial, so we'll just go and attack for our 100 damage and reset that energy attached to the Ferrothorn. Going over to my opponent, it means that they are guaranteed an energy, so if they wish to attach that elsewhere they do have that option, but it looks like they're just going to attach it back onto the Ferrothorn, flip coins again, and unfortunately for them they do get 3 tails once again, not being able to do any damage. We draw into the perfect card as I was hoping for, the Professor's Research, and my opponent concedes. So we'll get into another match. That one didn't really go anywhere. Let's get into another match here. We're once again starting off with the Krabby. Now we do have the Kingler in our hand this time, which is nice. So unfortunately, while we are going second and able to play a supporter card, I would like to get the Kingler into play, so we're going to avoid using our Professor's Research. We do have the Great Ball though, so we could hopefully hit into another Pokemon to help us out here in the hopes that we don't get knocked out. Unfortunately we do only get Dreadnought, so I think we will take this just to thin it out of the deck and bin it with the Professor's Research, as we do have another one and we can always recover it with Ordinary Rod later down the line if we need to. As I said, in the deck profile, Dreadnought's not particularly the best attacker in the deck, but it can be useful. It's just that high as that cost of 3 energy with minimal output, kind of averaging attack damage, so I'd much rather just thin it out of the deck, get rid of it, and focus on getting this Kingler into play. My opponent is able to hit us here for 40 damage since they used Professor Kukui, but we're able to get down another Krabby and evolve into Kingler here. I think attaching an energy onto the benched Krabby is going to be most beneficial, as we do have that one copy of Energy Switch. We can always use that to attack with Kingler's secondary attack later down the line. We are able to draw into 2 Saw Balls, not just 1 but 2, so that's going to be good for getting us into Inteleon at some point. And we'll just attack for 40 damage here, discarding the top card of my opponent's deck. We do only discard a water energy unfortunately, but you gotta think it could have been something more useful like a draw supporter, so it is certainly a useful attack, and we can always attach to our active in the following turn so that we can start swinging for some big damage if we so desire. Looks like my opponent is just mulling over their options. They're going to evolve up their bench as well as get a Professor Kukui with that ability that Delcatty has here, allowing you to get a supporter card from your discard pile back into your hand. That Professor Kukui is going to allow them to draw 2 cards as well as do 40 damage to us once again, or if they choose to do a different attack, then they're still getting that bonus of plus 20 damage from Professor Kukui, but it is once again just 40 damage, and I'm perfectly fine with that. So we do have options here. We have a Hop or a Pokekid. I think using the Pokekid first, just to thin out a Pokemon, is going to be nice. So we can have a look and see what Pokemon we have available here. Doesn't look like we have another Kingler unfortunately, but since we have Sobble, I think we'll go ahead and we'll get another Drizzle. That means that we can set up our Inteleon nice and easily in these coming turns. And my opponent doesn't really have too much going on in terms of backup attackers, so I'm going to attach to the active here and take the knockout, as well as discarding the top card being a water energy once again. And we take the first prize card of the match, also drawing into that Kingler, which is actually the same as the previous match, taking Kingler as our first prize card. So my opponent's not able to get a knockout whatsoever here, and we do have the Kingler to evolve into, as well as we got a mana time, so I'll put that into play. It could be useful, and we'll draw 3 cards here with Hop, getting into some more water energy, and we can attach to the active and start hitting for 90 damage. Or alternatively we could switch out, but this Delcatty has 90 HP, so we'll just swing into it for the knockout here. Hopefully we can get into a reasonable prize card, and we get a Professor's Research. Seems like we're pretty lucky today. We're getting all of the best draws, and the deck is very much rewarding us for our efforts. My opponent's forced to attack with the Slugma here, which is weak to water, and they're also going to concede since they have no way out and we're disrupting them too much. Let's try and get one more game in here, and hopefully it's a full one. Alright, starting off our last game here, we are going with the Cramorant in the active position. once again going second. And we have a reasonable hand considering we have Professor of Research, allowing us to draw a bunch of cards here starting. And we can just attach to the active. Might as well use this Pokemon Catcher just in case we can make use of it. We can bin the rest of these water energy, hopefully drawing into some reasonable cards, but instead it just looks like a whole bunch of Pokemon. So we're just going to have to put down a couple of these. We do have a couple of Sobble as well, which I will put down. Don't really need to worry about bench space at the moment, and we'll put 20 damage onto my opponent's active Pokemon, which leads us into a nice attack for 50 damage in the following turn. My opponent is using an old deck, and this Rattata only has 40 HP, so we could just do another 20 to it and attach an energy elsewhere, or we could even start doing a bit of snipe damage onto their bench if we so desire. My opponent has the evolution as well as an energy attachment. Be interesting to see what they have for us. See an attack for 20 damage in return. So we're going to put the Kindler into play as well as attach to the active and just start swinging for 50 damage and getting our knockouts as quickly as possible here. We're able to get a Pokekid, which is good. That's going to let us get any Pokemon that we want from our deck, as well as just generally thin the deck so we can get some better draws on the go. My opponent promotes attacker here and hits us for 30 damage, getting tails on their attack. That means that, see here, the defending Pokemon would have been confused if they had got heads, so luckily that didn't happen and we're able to avoid the confusion. I'm going to make use of Pokekid to get a Drizzile and evolve up into that so that we can get our Inteleon out nice and quickly. And we'll hit into our opponent for another 50 damage. We are lacking energy quite a bit here though. I would like to have got an attachment down so that we can start powering up some other Pokemon that's on the bench. Hopefully we don't get confused from our opponent. That would really mess up our plans here. And as long as we don't get confused, we're going to be able to just keep swinging for 50 damage, turn after turn, whittling down our opponent. So it looks like they're going for a different attack here, and they're actually moving damage counters around. Move up to 4 damage counters from any of your Pokemon to any of your opponent's Pokemon in any way that you like. So it means that whenever we put damage onto them, they're able to use Solar Suggestion and put that damage right back onto us. And it doesn't have to be on our active either, it could be anywhere that they like. That's going to be really difficult for us to deal with, but we do have some options here at least. We can evolve up into Dreadnought, still missing the water energy unfortunately. But we're just going to start hitting them for 20 I think. Let's reach here from any of your Pokemon to any of your opponent's Pokemon. So even if I snipe the bench, they're still going to be able to make use of Solar Suggestion. And we're just going to have to keep hitting them for 50 damage because they can only move up to 40 damage. So at least we're getting the 10 damage in, but it's going to be pretty futile at this point considering they're going to keep moving that damage back onto us. They get tails on that, which is good. We're gonna get an energy attachment, which I wish that I had energy attachments because we would be in much better position if we could. This Espeon only has 90 HP, so we have plenty of things that can take it out if we do get the energy set up on our bench. And they're using that Solar Suggestion once again to move energy from the Espeon onto our Pokemon. So, since we don't have a lot of options, I think we're going to be picking up this Kindler. It does have a little bit of damage on it, but it is a 1 energy attacker, so it makes the most sense to put that into the active. And we don't really need Cramorant. Manatime is a better attacker overall, so we're going to research away the rest of the Pokemon. get a Drizzile as well as Inteleon, and we finally get a couple of energy that we can attach. And we also get a switch, so we do have some options here. We could make use of Inteleon or something else to attack with. Inteleon being able to use Silent Shot and discard a card from my opponent's hand could be useful, although we only do a total of 40 damage. It doesn't have any damage on it though, so I think this is going to be the best option to go for at the moment. That Silent Shot doing 40 damage, while it's not going to do a huge amount, it is discarding a card from my opponent's hand, which gets rid of an option for them, and they can move that energy, or not energy, the damage that we put onto the Espeon, they can move that onto our Pokemon, but we're going to be able to follow up the next turn with the knockout on the Espeon, be able to get rid of it, which is exactly what we need at the moment, because we're going to be struggling if we don't get rid of this Espeon. So my opponent's opting to retreat here instead, which is a reasonable option for sure. And they're going to go with an attack here. Allow your opponent to draw 2 cards. If you don't, then Togekiss attack does 20 damage to our active Pokemon. So let's go no, and I'll let them do the damage to us because I don't want them to have cards in their hand. We're able to draw into a hop. That's going to give us 3 cards, all 3 of which are energy, which is fine, we can deal with that. Let's have a look at Togekiss. It does have 40 HP, so we can just use Silent Shot to knock it out, meaning we can attach this water energy elsewhere, and we're going to start attaching it to the Dreadnought, since it is going to be doing the most damage out of everything in play. And as I say, we'll use Silent Shot for 40, and discard a card from my opponent's hand, so they're left with 1 card remaining. They're most likely going to bring up the Espeon, which they do, and that's going to allow them to start picking that damage that's on it back over onto our side of the board. And my opponent doesn't have very much to work with here, and they will be getting knocked out on this coming turn, since we're able to do 100 damage to them, which will get the nice clean knockout that we need here. At that point, with the Espeon being gone, I think we're going to be in the clear to win this game. Getting into a Great Ball as well as a Hop is great here. Get it because it's a Great Ball, but sure, we'll use the Great Ball. We get a Kingler, we also get a Drizzile. Let's just get the Drizzile. We don't really need any of them, so we'll grab the Drizzile and attach an energy to our active so that we can get the knockout here. Finally get that Espeon out of here, and that's going to allow us to start dealing with the rest of our opponent's Pokemon. Going to pass on that, we don't want to give them their energy and they concede the game since they don't have any other good attackers or anything to work with in their hand. So if you enjoyed the video at any point, be sure to give it a like down below as it really helps out the channel. And this has really been a show of how disruptive this Inteleon deck is in the theme deck format, as we've not really had anything this disruptive before. Certainly go check it out for yourselves and let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on it. I'll see you guys in the next video.